Good morning. Yeah, don't know what. I'm a bit disorganised today because when creativity strikes, you've got to go with it. And so last night I was going to do the vid, and I had a failure of lighting. Yeah, the lights crapped out, and couldn't do anything. And anyway, so today, it's been I've deduced something according to this reality that anxiety is a political entity that's comprised of 8 laws, and it exists at the quantum level of thought, right? Now, let's just say that is the case, right? Because actually that's the only place that anxiety can live, right? And so, well, how does this affect, the first thought about it was that it exists at the quantum level of thought. It secretly triggers our nervous system into being active. Okay, so depending on the quality of the anxiety that exists at the quantum level of thought, how it was conceptualized in the culture shock experience of being born, how strong is it? Because it's hijacked consciousness, so and consciousness only exists now, and so it brings forward that culture shock experience of birth, right? So it's going to have a different strength and weakness, right? There'll be varied levels of presence, and so does this secretly trigger the nervous system into being active when we're inactive? And so this is the thing, and so we're asleep in that, and we've already got half throttle on our nervous system, which actually explains a lot about how people react, what their personality is like, right? So a passive person, aggressive person, happy person, all these levels of all the levels of this governorship that anxiety provides over our cognition, okay? And you get these different personalities. So some with a high level of anxiety, they might be overly happy, okay, and things like that. And again, it could be that they're introverted and they don't speak much, and this is all to do with this culture shock experience of birth, right? And so what does it do? What does it do to us when our nervous system is being triggered to be 50% active, or 60% active, or 20% active, even just when we think we're relaxed, right? What does it do? So these decisions we make on how we feel, we have to, it affects how we, it affects our taste in music. It affects our philosophy as per, economic philosophy, right? And so it affects how we eat. Okay, it affects how we eat, and it affects how we. It affects what kind of relationships we have. These are all things about how we feel. Okay, so you've got the two elements there, consciousness, and then you've got your nervous system being kicked up to whatever percent, I think generally, as a general rule, I think the majority of the population of planet Earth would have at least 40% active nervous systems because of this, right? And then you get, like, to a lesser extent, 50, 60%. And then you get people with 70%. And they 70, 80%, they'd be the narcissists and sociopaths. Actually, 50% odd would be a narcissist, 70% off would be a sociopath. and above that could be people who commit suicide. And so religion came along, and all of a sudden, all the people that had 40% anxiety on, they thought, oh yeah, religion sounds really good, man. It explains. It seemingly explains how they feel, but actually, it's a vehicle for the expression of the philosophy of anxiety, of that relationship they're having in their own mind. And see, it replicates, religion replicates the event of anxiety in the mind, so this is why people think it's credible. Oh, that's what it is. Oh, it's not anxiety at all. It's Satan trying to get me. It's not anxiety at all. It's the big emotional standover that Jesus threatens everyone with hell unless they capitulate to him. That sounds just like what I've got in my own head. And so there you get the this massive corruption under the surface of the culture shock event of birth, and then anything that seems like it replicates anxiety, or it has that measure of a lie about it, then becomes truth. Okay? And so this is why you get facts, which are facts, the word fact, which is a fact according to the lies. And then you get the new one, which is true fact. True fact. Which is fact according to the truth. Which is, here's the two, it's reality inside the jurisdiction of the 8 laws, and it's reality outside of the jurisdiction of the 8 laws. Inside you have inside the jurisdiction of the 8 laws you have static cognition. Outside the jurisdiction of the 8 laws you have fluid cognition, right? And so these are the things I see. And then there's people who are obsessed about problems and seemingly can only speak about problems. And then there are those who quietly consider that and because they are only focused on answers, and yet they're prevented from speaking because only something that replicates the function of anxiety gets political credibility, which everyone gravitates to when they're listening, right? And so yeah, well that's that, you know, I'm just spelling that out, you know. So how does this affect how we eat? Well, I know one way to affect, because the business community is actually all about, it's formatted by anxieties, because everyone's obsessed with making more profit, man, even though they got billions of fucking dollars anyway. You know, that validates the belief in anxiety as virtuous to all the people that work for a living. So they start buying fast food, right? Because they haven't got any time. You know? You know, it's just like anxiety, right? It doesn't allow anyone any time to think. And the belief that anxiety is virtuous is why people actually don't think. It's not politically credible to think. If you have anything that sounds like you've involved critical thought, only a few people would stop and listen to you. Because I know this for a fact, right? I mean, everyone's experienced that as a child, actually. There are those who slow down to be listening to kids, and there are those who require kids to follow them and be quiet. Which follows the two camps. Courage has patience and values listening, and anxiety does not value patience and listening. It leads by crisis, you know, crisis. And it acts like there's a crisis, and that's why they haven't got any time to talk to kids. And so slowly, the evidence is there, slowly society's been made to function under the same political ideology, right? where people don't have any time. And I mean, a big feature of that is actually forcing both parents to work. Okay, forcing both parents to work. And so, see, while you've got the economics there, they are telling you this and that, and it's like, well, this and that. Actually, they are only driving the belief that anxiety is virtuous, because everyone would be happier if mum was at home looking after the house and the kids. Because that is the centre of everyone's life. It makes mum the king and the queen of the world. And it is a major, major thing for kids to know they have a home and mum's always there, and there's always food happening, and it's like, it's the absolute gem of security for kids. And so that needs to be, because most of us, right, we don't get rich, man. We're not going to get rich working. And all we have is our family and our home, right? And well, the vast majority of people, I am not married, and I don't have kids, so but it was essential for anxiety to actually make both parents work, because then it split families apart. It destroyed the family unit actually doing that, because then actually the belief, the political correct deity of anxiety, then had everyone to itself. The kids, they started to push stuff on kids at schools, and then you got OS regulations up to the eyeballs at work, and then now they've politicised women in the workplace with wage equality and the sexual assault thing. And so you can see the pattern of behaviour is following this committed course of action to force people, force society to change. And it actually is it's an exact carbon copy of what an anxiety sufferer, how the political landscape is for those living in close proximity to someone with a high level of anxiety. That person will seek to own the minds of the people around them. And this is exactly a carbon copy of the development of Western society. Okay, because you could argue, like in the US, they had this mass shooting, the 19th mass shooting at a school this year in the US, right? And they're going, oh, we've got to stop this. It's got to legalise guns, man. It's like, well, actually, what brings them to this level of mental illness as it presents itself in this situation? This has been happening in New Zealand, right? You've just got this overbearing insistence from a central place that all eyes should be on the central place. Okay, and they've done all these things. They've messed around with the schools. They've messed around with teachers' pay a lot. They have got way too much paperwork in the schools. There are huge regulatory environment for schools, for teachers and headmasters. Their costs are way up. The costs are way up. And then you've got the wider media experience of kids. Okay, and so they've attacked people that way, and I could argue that it's normalising schizophrenia actually, because it's creating a situation where there's these voices all the time, and that's the media. That's the media's involvement in kids and young people's lives, right? It's always blah 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 blah, and people might find they need to experience that now, right? And so that it's been normalised, and so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do another video today about that, the media. How if you get your memory of the last week of the media, if you listen to the radio and you watch the TV news, the 6 o'clock news, it's actually like inverted schizophrenia, actually. And so, my question is, right, going into the next election here in this country, the Tea Party, is who is programming the news? Who is programming the news, man? Okay. How come the news values bad news so much? Could it be they believe that anxiety is virtuous? Yes, it could. It very, 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 very most likely is exactly what it is. And so that's the mission on, man. Still calling out for, people to get involved, to get in contact, through the email, and be like giving donations and registering for this political party. This is not something that's just going to be New Zealand. I'm going to get right in the face of everyone in New Zealand, man. I'm going to ruin everyone's breakfast, man, over this, man. Because I'm right, and consciousness is right, and the little kids are right, and the adults who have been driven underground because they believe in courage, because anxiety has been replicated as wisdom and virtuous, have taken over. Yeah, this has all kind of come to an end. Once it's widely known once this discovery is widely known, okay, and as has been discussed in another vid, they might have a high belief in anxiety as virtuous, right? And they would see, there's this thing that pertains to give anxiety's anxiety. What's this? And as soon as they see it, and then they're aware of it, boom, it separates that anxiety from them, figuratively speaking, and they can figuratively look at it, and they immediately will become objective about it. So you can't mess with the universe, man, because it will whatever you ask for, it will say yes. I asked for this. I asked to change the world, man. I want it to be different. And I think I asked this question as a very, very small child. Once I had found out my parents didn't communicate, and I knew as a baby without language that this was entirely wrong. What is going on? The universe heard my question, and it has provided an answer. It's an answer that's fit for purpose to the question. And so this is the way it goes, man. I asked that question before I had language as a baby, and so it gave me an answer that was according to consciousness exclusively, not according to this human understanding that is actually formatted with language. And as a matter of course, it has been conceptualized inside the jurisdiction of the 8 laws. My question came at a time when I didn't have language as this little baby, and so my question involved the consciousness values, and which is why this perfect amnesty has come about to now be able to go out and tell the whole world about it, right? Because what I'm planning, as I say, as soon as people see the 8 laws revelation, they will inadvertently become objective about anxiety and perceive themselves as separate to the anxiety, and be aware of the function of anxiety and how it tricks people. And that completely changes everything. They no longer will be inside the jurisdiction of anxiety once they become objective of anxiety. So it's a really critical element that it's been qualified as a political entity. And yeah, and so this doesn't only have to stop here. It can be in any place in the world. Any place in the world, man. So that's the AMA, that's the goal. And as I've said, I'm going to do this thing for 2020 here. I mean, if I was resourced, I'd go out and start right now, as I've said. think the old car is up for a few laps around the country. Yeah. And I'll go and do that right now. Because I know for a fact, as I've described what will happen in New Zealand, considering the anxiety landscape in this country, this can happen anywhere, man. This can happen exactly anywhere that they use language to communicate. Okay? And so, that's the plan. And, on top of that, Caucasians, right, we're not racist. We like togetherness. And it's absolutely secondary to the primary that you may be a different culture or whatever. That's absolutely irrelevant. You're welcome to have fellowship with Caucasian people if you are of any ethnicity at all. It's absolutely welcomed. I mean, so the real trick of it is, let's just think about it like this. How about we actually change some of these other countries to maybe more like New Zealand, right? What say we do that? And so maybe we can do something about their mass problems. I mean, a lot of the mass problems of overseas countries is that there's just so many people. And so you need this kind of qualification. You need this kind of qualification to actually create unity, a unified understanding and direction of what we're about, right? And these other places don't have that. They have religion. And religion has nothing to do with social cohesion and unity, actually. It puts things in a perspective that we are individuals, and it creates it actually facilitates to make distinctions that people are different. Okay, that's part of religion. See, as a Caucasian with the spirituality we want people. We value inclusion. We want you to come over and say hi. And it doesn't matter if you're different. It validates our point better if you're different. How about that? And so we roll with everyone, man. We don't make any distinctions. We don't have special names for different people. We are of the old world, man, the ancient world. We still are of the ancient world in our spirituality. And so this is important. So anyway, change the subject a little bit. Yeah, our Prime Minister there, Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister who never wanted to be the Prime Minister. See, how come she was... See, if you look into it, you can see that she was roped into it. See, the Labour leader quit. Little, his name was. And he was the Labour leader, and he was far too tense. He was a long time trade unionist, and he was far too stiff. He had no real public speaking. There was no warmth to what he was saying, and so he quit, and Jacinda got voted in, and I know why Jacinda got voted in, because he's young and pretty, and people that believe that anxiety is virtuous love that rather than think about the problems, and because this is in keeping with New Zealand's culture, right? We've had feminism, we've had political correctness, we've had the gender war, which isn't feminism, that was something else, and then we've had it was basically the two things: political correctness and feminism, and gay rights was a big one of that. And actually, all this is about making New Zealand culture neutral, because the people's main philosophy is that anxiety is virtuous, and it's anxiety that wants to make us culture neutral. Because as you know from someone who's in your house there that's got a high level of anxiety, they just want everybody to shut up until they're spoken to, you know. And because anyone who says anything is actually making a direct challenge to the authority of anxiety, which actually wants people to do nothing. Anxiety wants everyone's brains into neutral gear. And so that's why Jacinda was such a welcomed, you know, the truth is ugly, so we need an ugly person to deal with it. We need a solution that is commensurate with the problem. And so if the problems are ugly, we need some ugly truth. We need to get into some ugly truth, man. And as it's been stated in the amnesty, at the key core of the whole thing, of all these behaviours, these negative behaviours, all have their genesis in an anxiety. Because it's the character of consciousness at the very centre of this. Anxiety is just a hijacker. And all of the ways that anxiety manipulates people and has manipulated society, because it's a virtual deity, are all because of the character and dynamices of consciousness, right? And so when you confront anxieties with courage, anxiety backs down really heavily, man. It's like it has to be quiet, right? And so it will go, being public with this discovery. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. And so yeah, she's gotten there, and see what happens is, right, you know what, if she's into governance, she should not align herself with any political minority. Okay, now the amount of noise the gay community has made, you'd think they are a very, very large portion of the population, man. But that's the anxiety amplifying. That's the anxiety amplifying the experience. Okay? And then the people that believe highly in anxiety listen to that. And this is why it seems that they're a really big part of New Zealand. So I bet you they wouldn't even amount to 2% of the population. Yet look at all the media time they get. Look at their political status. Now it's against the law to say anything about this minority, you know. And this is in keeping with the political aspirations of anxiety, actually, that it should be like this. This is a replication of the function of anxiety as it events in the mind, that this tiny little minority group get to have the whole of society acquiesce to what they want, right? And so again, see, there's another couple of 3-4 replications of the function of anxiety as it events in the mind. And when you look at it, you step back and look at it objectively at a conceptual level, this is the fact. It is a replication of the function of anxiety. And it brings to it that this is actually the only thing that people know how to do. They can't do anything else. While, I mean, up till now, you know, now there's this qualification which qualifies not only these questions that everyone has always been suspicious of but could never ask, it also provides the answers to those questions, right? And that there was never a qualification of that. No one could ever speak to it, because you can't have language unless you have a qualification. You don't know what you're talking about unless, because without it being qualified, it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? And so then it's been qualified as a political entity. Now we can actually talk about it. And because while the world is as it is, that's why it seems really okay and right that everyone makes way for these little minorities that are pushing the fifth law of anxiety. You have to acquiesce to those who are expressing the most anxieties, right? And then that's what's going on. And so, while as we see in the American election, Trump got elected, even though all of the media, all of their establishment, and all of the political opposition put way effort into not letting Trump get elected, and he got elected anyway. So that shows you the power of the silent majority. Okay, that shows you the power of the silent majority, and it also shows that the whole left they totally think anxiety is virtuous because that's all the questions they ask. They take issue with all sorts of things, and it's the kinds of things that anxiety thinks about, right? It's making the name-calling thing politically credible. It's dividing society up into these little groups and then see them have conflict together, which is replicating the function of anxiety, because that's what anxiety does to a family. It destroys the relationship cohesion, and then people start bickering and arguing. Okay, this is the presence of the political entity anxiety in a group. So yeah, what Jacinda will do and Labour will do was what they've always done. Is National, who invariably are about sticking to their knitting and courage, and governance. Yeah, Labour's come in and they snuck the victory, because National got the most votes. But through this political system we've got, if the minor parties get together and amounted to more votes, then they win. Okay, and so what they'll do is they're going to lord it up, thinking that they created all this environment, they created this economy we have. They'll take ownership that they did it, and they'll do nothing, and there'll be all sorts of housekeeping issues that they won't attend to, because they don't perceive them, right? They don't perceive. They have what they want, which is be in power. Okay, which is to replicate the function of anxiety, and so according to the political aspirations of anxiety, they have what they need to do. They don't need to care about anything else, right? And so yeah, they'll a lot of things they'll grind the country down, and I can't be sure of this because Winston Peters, he's the oldest, he's the longest serving politician in New Zealand. He's a Maori guy, and he's very Donald Trump like, because he's so focused on community, the status of the community, the state of the community, how it's conditioned, it's what the problems are, and what is a good thing to do, what's a healthy thing to do for the community. So instead of creating regulations to stop jobs, you might have regulations that create jobs. Because New Zealand politically is just like America. They think they're doing God's work by regulating everything to the eyeballs, right? And that stifles business. And it's like in New Zealand, we've got to wear long sleeve shirts driving on the site, or being a truck driver. You've got to wear a long sleeve shirt. It's not about getting sunburned. It's about lawyers protecting themselves. The legislation and the regulations in New Zealand is really about lawyers protecting themselves from other lawyers. And because it's total fucking nonsense, man. I mean, women can wear a strapless dress and go out to the beach all day long and not give a shit. And guys can't set foot on a building site without full coverage. So this massive amount of hypocrisy is caused because people who believe in anxiety are communication averse. Okay, that's why it's all very important for one part of the community and they totally forget the other part. You know, when I talk about mental health, man, oh, we're so worried about mental health, fucking hell, but let's just sell them as much booze as we can. Because booze is popular because people are communication averse. You know. But that comment leads to the central the perspective of this I have. This is a super duper sci-fi thing. The super duper sentient being, the human being, is hijacked by anxiety. Okay. And that's really, we have this world, we have civilization, we have, and these social mores we have, these things and ways we do things. And it's a reaction to that. It's trying to live with that. You know, it's like trying to travel from your house to the shops while you've got a broken leg. You've got a hobble. You've got to figure out the best way you can go about that. You know, and this is the civilization we've built while anxiety's hijacked consciousness, right? And so yeah, this how anxiety influences communicating. This is how civilization has been governed. Okay, it is how it's been governed, and that relationship between anxiety and courage, and that central of things, that linchpin of the political sphere, which is while courage acknowledges anxiety, anxiety does not acknowledge courage. And everyone with courage knows that because we have the event in the mind, right? And so this is where we are, but I'm saying the message is that now that it's been qualified as a political entity, you can figuratively hold it in your hand and be objective, right? And that's the one thing that will kill anxiety, is objectivity. Don't matter what you're talking about. If you are objective about the different components of the situation you're in, you can't have anxieties. Okay? And so this is an important message for you and your friends and your children and your parents and your governments and your musicians. How many songs have been written about people's experience in this political landscape that is our emotional lives, dealing with this presence of anxiety and how anxiety creates outcomes? How many songs have been written about that? I mean, I wonder how many songs have been written about the outcome of a relationship of some description that has been influenced by anxieties, right? And they're complaining. Yeah, I think there'd be tens of thousands of, where that is the only thing the person is trying to say in the song. This is what that bastard anxiety has done to my life. So many things, man. And how many songs have been written about the remorse and about people that are in mourning for a situation that's failed, because it's consciousness speaking about it is broken-hearted, you know. So yeah, that's it. So look, get in touch, whatever you want. As I've said, I'd love to go at this full time. The book is almost, it's at a very significant point, right? The book has been called The Observed Morality of Civilization. And that's absolutely fair comment. I was going to call it God So Loved the World He Put Satan Here, which is also a good title. But this is no joke, man. And so yeah, the technical, the word, yeah, that's the better title. So anyway, there's a few words, and I know that if you are aware of this thing, go watch Theory of Relativity 2.0 just to refresh your mind. I know that you're having an amazing experience now, man, and I would love for word of this to get into the Middle East. I would love that. Okay, and so you know, and South America, Brazil is a terrible place for violence, man. It's terrible, man. And so yeah, anyway, so speak up and speak out that you're aware, you know, make it known to other people and trigger their consciousness. Show them that consciousness has a safe place with you, and then it will bring forth the other's consciousness, and you will be happy together. Trust me. And so that's what we should all endeavour to do. All right. Peace, man.